Hello everyone, I am back. So, hope you had a great holiday. I know I did. I did my marathon until right before New Year, and then I took a break and had an awesome New Year. Couldn't have been any better. And now I'm back at it. So let me show you what I did in the interim since the last video that I showed you. I had to go back and look at it and see where I was. All right, so some of the things are wheels. All right, I had a previous project that had a set of wheels, and the width of the wheels is the same as the Z06. I designed this body for the Z06, which is wider than the standard C8. So previously, this wheel was 2 inches in. Well, when I put the wheel in to simulate the Z06, you can see that now the fender and the wheel are just about perfect. So when the suspension goes down, I've got just enough room there for the wheel to go up under, tuck under. What I had to do was I had to open up the opening for the wheel. I don't know what I did with that section. Anyway, I cut it out. It's not perfect, but it's somewhat close. This panel right here was one I made, and it was just stuck in there. So what I did was I went back here. This had a little lip, so I had to take my multi-tool, cut out the lip here, and cut this to shape, and then put it here, and I used these little screws to hold everything in place. Let's see what else. Okay, the door, again, this door is a fake door. Some of the comments people make just astound me. Somebody actually said, hey, did you realize that your your belt line isn't aligned? Well, of course I realized that. I'll show you why it's that way, but they just ask some of the silliest questions. It's like, I've designed this whole car. You think I can't see that door seems misaligned? Anyway, this right here is not going to be a vent. It was simply where the original vent was taken out. So I wanted to see what it would look like without the vent. Actually, probably that way. No, it was that way. Anyway, so this will be filled in, would be filled in. If I was going to do it this way, I've just changed my mind on my design. But if I were going to have this as a flat panel, it's hard to get that filled back in. The best way I found so far, and if someone knows a better way, please let us know. But take a piece of sheet metal, I would put it here, and then I would screw it along the edge to make it flat. And then from the back side, I would put fiberglass down. I'd put resin down, I'd put fiberglass mat, and I do cloth so it's not rough on the back side. Okay, then once that's cured, this should be flat. Now you're going to have a weird spot there where some of the fiberglass resin runs in between here, but it's very easy to fix this isolated edge than to try to get a whole panel flat if I was to do it using other methods. What else? The front wheel. The front wheel is also larger. So the back wheel, not only the width is correct, but on the Z06, this is a 20-inch, rear wheel diameter. The Z06 is a 21-inch. So I left an extra inch here. Okay, so I only wanted an inch space here, but I gave it an extra inch because when I put the Z06 wheels on here, it'll come out to here. So it will be tighter to the wheel well. I don't like space in between here, so I try to get it as minimal as I possibly can. Front wheel, the fender opening looks pretty close. Same problem though. This one is a 19-inch and the one on the Z06 is a 20-inch. So this is going to be an inch bigger. So this is going to come out an inch all the way around. I'll have to see what it's going to look like. I may have to open this up more. I may not. Anyway, it's something to consider. Same thing, the wheel's wider, so it's going to come out more on the fender. What I was going to do is, you can see from this, is I was going to have this panel curve in or slant in right here. And what this does is it opens up this vent. Everybody was worried about me cooling the vehicle. Well, I already knew I was going to push this in. I couldn't push it in previously because of all the junk that they put on the C8, which is the whole purpose of me doing this, is I don't like all that junk. So what I had to do was I had to cut all of that off. And so once I cut it off, I could get this back edge in here. What I'm going to do instead is cut this right here you've seen my other door panel, I'll show it to you in a second, and the door panel is going to be flat against here. So there's going to be a vent right through here. It's a non-functional vent, but I want this out, I want this in, and then my running board right here, or balance, is going to stay out. So it'll be here, and there'll be a piece that connects those two. That piece is going to look something like this. So what I'm going to do is, now the way I made this is, okay, let's back up a little bit. This piece right here is a piece of 4-inch PVC pipe. What I did was I sprayed it with silver paint just to get an idea of what it would look like. What I was debating was mimicking the side pipes. On some of the C2 Corvettes, they had side pipes and exhaust. Obviously, with this being a rear engine car, the engine's back there, there's no reason for the exhaust to come up here. But I wanted to see what it would look like if somebody said, hey, I'd like this exact look. So that's what this is. Again, silly comments, people said, oh, well, you can use vinyl tape or vinyl wrap, chrome wrap, all of these different sprays and stuff. Do you really think I am going to mount a piece of, $10 PVC on the side of a 6-figure car and paint it with silver or wrap it or whatever? No, if somebody wants this, it's either going to be chrome or polished aluminum, brushed aluminum, billet aluminum, doesn't matter, whatever they want. I just wanted to see what it would look like to get an idea. Same thing, if I do this for someone, I've got to figure out, what do I do here? Do I curve this in? Do I have the body come out and slightly overlap this? So it would be a curved orange piece in this case, whatever the body color is. Same thing back there. Would I have it come out like these did? It basically makes a, let's say, a 45 degree, and then they cut it, slice it at an angle so the opening's an oval. That would fake a side exhaust. Or if people don't like the fake side exhaust approach, I could again do the same thing, cover it up with body color right here and just have it go back under. Again, up to the customer, whoever wants. This could also be painted body color, so it would just look like a cover over an exhaust that you can't see. Anyway, this is how I do my design. I did have a designer get on my YouTube page and make a comment about, I can't believe this guy isn't using a designer. Well, there's a reason for that. I've hired multiple designers. Every one of them, when I tell them what I want, I show them what I want, they go off and do it, and they come back and they made changes. And so I ask them, wait a minute, where did this change come from? Oh, I thought it would look better if I did this. Okay, I don't want to build your car. I'm building my car. So I need you to do exactly what I asked. Now, after we look at it, if we both decide that it needs to be changed, or actually, if I decide it needs to be changed, great, we'll change it, and I'll pay you to do another iteration. But I want to see, I have this image in my mind of what the car is going to look like. I want to see it physically. The other issue is, it takes months for them. Usually they're backed up in the back and forth iterations, and it takes, let's say, 3 months to get a drawing. I can get a lot of work done in 3 months. In 3 months, I actually have physical things done instead of a bunch of drawings that then I get to start building things. The third thing is, great, you've got a drawing. Now I still have to go off and take that drawing and make it into physical pieces. That's difficult to do. So again, I'm skipping a bunch of steps by not having the drawings done. Everybody has their own approach. Of course, a designer thinks that you have to have a designer in the middle of your process. I'm an engineer and a fabricator. I don't need a designer. I've got this thing in my head. I just got to make it appear. All right, let's see. So this is optional. One of the reasons I did this was, this is a little bit big. Okay, so what I can do is, in fact, it can't be this tall because the bottom of the door is here, and the door wouldn't open. You would get the door would hit it right here. So at the very least, this edge has to curve down to where the door will swing over it. Now I am probably going to put what they call Lambo doors, Lamborghini doors, to where they go up, but I want the option to not do that in case for some reason I decide I don't like it. So I want the door to be able to open either way. So again, this is going to come down, probably continue this curve and come down to some thinner thickness right here. I haven't decided exactly on that thickness yet. I'm going to do it as I go, which gets me back to what I was doing here. I have this. It's a curved piece. I want a curved piece in between here. I want this to slowly go into the vent. Okay, so what I did was, and I did this for a prior car, this is an old one, I took that same piece of PVC, I put fiberglass resin on it, I put cloth on it. I ended up having to put rubber bands on it because it wouldn't stay against the pipe. So what I ended up with was, oh, and I'd waxed the PVC just to be safe. I don't know that you would need to do that. But what happened is I have a nice, virtually perfect surface in here because it's the outside of the PVC. Now, if I had something that was curved this way, I would do the opposite. I would split that tube, ideally in half, and then I would do the inside, put this on the inside, and this surface would be absolutely perfect and smooth, and the inside surface would be rougher. But in this case, I want this inside surface to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and trim it to where it fits inside of there, and from there I'll decide exactly what do I want this to look like. I'm thinking at some point it'll have a 30, 45 degree angle, flat piece between here and here with a curve at the top. We'll see. I still haven't figured out how to terminate it up here. Again, I'll look at it. I'm just going to do it on the fly like I do a lot of things. All right, what else? Oh, and I did screw this panel to this. So you can see I have screws here so that these two are now attached. What else? The peak here. So this is a separate piece. This is a separate piece here. There's a gap here, a 2-inch. The peak would actually be right here in space. I tried to do it with duct tape as I showed before, and it didn't work. The duct tape kept collapsing. What I'm going to do is, I like the way this looks, other than it needs to be a little bit taller in here. It's flat across the top. I don't like that. It looks okay, but I would rather have it peak just a little bit. I tried to do it with cardboard and it didn't work, as I said last time. So what I'm going to do is get a piece of foam and glue it on top of here, and then I'm going to carve the foam to get the exact shape I want. And then I'll cover that with fiberglass. Okay, what else? The wheels. The C8 Corvette changed the wheel design. The bolt pattern is different, and the studs are bigger, and there's a hub that this wheel sits on, and the hub is smaller on the C8. Okay? What that says is I can put an old style wheel on a C8, but it won't be right because the wheel pattern is slightly different. It's only, I don't know, a little bit off. So you can mount it, but it wouldn't be right because the tapered seats aren't going to taper correctly. And the center hub is too loose. It's like 3 millimeters. So there are spacers that you can put in here to make this hub of the C8 bigger so that it would work. Then you could have these spot faced to get the right bolt pattern. But most people, I guarantee, are going to just bolt the wheels on there, not realizing that it doesn't really work. Anyway, the consequence of this is that the wheels off of the C8 will not fit on the C5 that I took these wheels from. So that's an issue. I've got the car over there. I've got some spacers and stuff. I'll show that in another video. What helped me here is there is a 2-inch spacer right here, and I used it on the C5 again to get the wheel out. And so it allowed me to basically use it as an adapter. The holes in the spacer were big enough to accommodate the larger studs, and then the studs that came out here. So the bolts for the adapter are in between each of these. So there's 5 of them, and then they offset this here. So there are actually should be 5 lug nuts holding the spacer to the hub, and then the wheel bolts to the spacer. Okay. What else? All right, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the door. A couple other things before I do that while I'm here. All right, I'm using self-tapping, self-drilling, self-tapping screws to attach these things because it saves a bunch of steps. I take my drill, I have a socket on there, it's a 1/4 inch. I pick, what are these? Number 8 screws, because they're 1/4 inch. So all of these tools have 1/4 inch hex, so you don't have to have a socket or adapter. Okay, so when I put this piece on, again, I said I trimmed off the lip. There's a little bit of a gap right here. Well, how I take care of that gap is I take this, stick my hand behind here, and make sure you don't drill in your hand. I've done that before. All right, so go through, and it drills through the outer panel. Then all of a sudden the screw will drop a little bit. There it goes. Okay, now it's screwed into the outer panel, but it's not even drilled in the inner panel. So what you do is you keep on going. It's going to strip out the threads here, so this thing will spin. Okay, so now as I do this, it's drilling a hole in the back panel. When it does that, then it's going to go past the drill part, and it's going to get to the threads, and it's going to start pulling this back panel in. I stop as soon as I see that back panel start moving. Otherwise, if I just keep going, I'm going to strip out the back panel, and the screw will do absolutely nothing. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, I'm back here. I actually feel the screw just came through, it broke the surface. So I'm pushing hard to get the two together. And as soon as I see all right, now I saw it move in a little bit, but I stopped. The reason why is now I can take a tool like this and manually tighten this. Okay, and that ensures I won't strip it when I'm done. All right, so now that panel's pulled in from this screw. Now sometime in the future, obviously, I'm going to come in and fill in this divot right here, smooth all this out. But now at least I have this piece in place, and it's as tight as I can get it. I could, when I do that, go in, take all these screws off, put fiberglass resin and mat in between these two. That would bond those two together there, and then I could taper it right here. That's probably a better approach. All right, just wanted to show you that. And that's how I attached this. I really didn't like having to drill holes in the body panel. I don't know why, because it's already strapped, but it wouldn't bother me. So what I'm gonna do is, I've got this in reverse now. I'm going to show you what I've been doing. Why this is the way it is. So again, I used a combination of duct tape and screws and whatever it took to get this on here. There's a screw there. I'm going to do that one last. There's a screw here. And there's one down there that's going to be a pain to get to. Because of that. I'm going to manually do it because this has a little bit better edge there. And again, this top edge would be cut away because this is part of the door, so it has to swing over. All right, take the screw out, and the last screw. So this is that partial door panel that I had from the previous that I cut to make this extension. All right, so once I take this out, you can see what I've been doing. Okay, so I had to cut all of these raised sections off of the C8 so that the door would lay flat. I didn't want all of these ridges and stuff. This is where the switch was for the door. There were four bolts in here, and you're supposed to go inside, take off the door panel and all of that. I don't want to mess with that, so I just cut it out. All right, so here is the actual switch mechanism right here. Okay. And there's a wire that goes through there, and I can't get my hand down in there. My hand's too fat. So the actual panel here, the orange piece, is actually down in there as well. So I can still reach in here, open and close the door. I'll have to figure out where to mount the switch when I get the other door panel on. So now you can see that I had to cut all this out. I still will need to cut it the rest of the way. I just stopped right there because, again, I thought I was going to make it angle. Now that I've decided that this is going to lay flat, this has to come out all the way up to the front. Not a big deal. This will be cut right here, and I'll fill in that little bit of gap right there. What else? The door panel. All right, so this is the spare door panel that I made. A couple of things. One, I've been making my fiberglass pieces 1/10 of an inch thick because they're just quick and dirty. No reason to make them any thicker. Again, a lot of times I'm going to have to go back in the back and reinforce it. So there was no point in making it real thick. That works on most of the other panels because they've got curves. This one is a mostly flat panel. And what I found out was that's not enough thickness. If you look, see if I can do this. Not sure my camera will let me. Oh, just lower it. There we go. Okay, so this is sitting on a trash can. Right here is where the edge of the trash can is. It has a hump here because this is really flexible. So because this is a flat panel, it needs to be thicker if I need it to retain its exact shape. Where this ridge is very stiff. I can't bend it here because of that ridge. Okay, but over here where there's no ridge, I can bend it. Something else I learned the hard way, so that you don't have to. I just assumed that because this was in a mold, that if I put the gel coat on, it didn't matter if it had sags and runs and that kind of stuff because it would lay flat against the mold surface. Well, I was wrong. Not sure if you can see this, but when it cured, some of those sags and runs actually came through to the front surface. Let me see if I can. There we go. You can see it right there. There it is. Okay, so obviously this was a sag that was on the inside, and it came through to the outside. So I was kind of surprised. I'm guessing it's because of the different shrink rate. The thicker it is, the faster it cured. So part of it cured faster, part of it cured slower, and it made a mess. So now in the future, I know I need to be careful when I do that. The other thing, not a big deal. There's a whole bunch of fish eyes is what they call them. That means there's something on the surface contaminated, probably wax, because there's wax in the gel coat and wax in the fiberglass. I did wipe it down like I normally do, but apparently I didn't do a good enough job. In my defense, I painted this last night at 7:30 in the dark and did a quick sand job just to rough up the gel coat, so I didn't really prep it. I had two choices. I could either do it last night and know that I probably wasn't going to get the best job in the world, or I could do it this morning and then it would be wet and I'd have to wait 2-3 hours and it would still be tacky. So I painted it, let it set for a couple hours, and then I took it inside. Let it sit for a couple hours because it would smell like paint. I didn't want the house to smell like paint. But after a couple hours, all of that evaporated. And so the house didn't smell like paint, and it cured overnight at room temperature. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. All right, sorry about the sun, but okay. Ideally, the sun would be coming from the other direction for video reasons, but that's not the case. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. Now this door panel is going to go in like so, and it's going to go behind this piece right here. In fact, this piece won't be there anymore. Once I'm done, so drop that down there. Do this over here. Okay, I had to cut this V because I was test fitting stuff while that was still in place. So this is what it's going to look like. And so obviously, to address what that person was talking about, this one is going to be raised up to where it aligns with that. This is going to be lower just a little bit. and this is going to align there. Okay, but it's going to be pushed in. So this is going to be directly against the door. So there's a gap all the way through here. Again, my curved piece is going to fill in that gap. Okay. One last thing I want to show you. Up until now, I couldn't move this car. The reason why is because when I put these body panels on, they actually touched the back of the wheel right here. Okay, and that allowed me to make sure that the body was squared and aligned because I had a reference point. If that touches over here and it touches over there, then I know the two are the same. But it also meant I couldn't move the car. So another thing I did yesterday is, because this is now solidly mounted, you can see it's not going anywhere. That allowed me to cut this away. So what I did was I only cut 1 inch out of here so that now I can move the car. Previously, I could not move the car. It had to sit here because this rubbed, and as it moved, it would try to basically rip this off. So I cut just this little section out right here. Again, when I put that other wheel on there, it's fatter, taller because it's a wider tire. It's going to reduce this space, and then I'm going to need that extra inch for the fact that the Z06 wheels are 21 inch instead of 20 inch. Okay, I think that's it. So one of the things I need to do, and I haven't decided what order I'm going to do them in. If I had somebody else helping, I would have them do that, but I need to make another set of eyebrows, front fender eyebrows, because that's what these eyebrows are. They're front fender eyebrows, one from the right, one from the left. I cut them and sectioned them so that this would come out correct. Okay, now I can go in and finish this side, do the foam and do all of that stuff, but if I do that, it's going to be more difficult to get the other side to match this side. If I stop right now, go make these two eyebrows again, then I can put these on top of those eyebrows, trace them out and say, oh, okay, that's exactly the size and shape that I need. It'll make it easier to make the other side match this side. I've got to decide which I want to do. I'm torn between the two. Part of me wants to get this side completely finished and looking correct, and then go off and do the other side. But then part of me says you can save yourself some time, effort, and frustration by making the copies right now. I will probably go ahead and finish this just because I want to get it finished, and then I'll worry about that later. The other challenge is, again, this hatch here and that trunk and the hatch have to be able to open. So there has to be a gap right here. I did trim this to where it actually exactly meets up as close as I could. So this needs to come up a little bit, and then it will terminate right here. So it may come up and then start coming down before it terminates. Again, I'll have to determine that. But what I'll do is I'll put the foam on here, carve it, and then wherever this line ends up is where it ends up. One last thing. Again, these are to address some of the concerns people brought up. Okay, so one, if you look at this, the front end's crooked. Oh, it's not as bad today. It must have slipped. Anyway, it's because I just grabbed a piece of wood and propped up the other side because I was by myself and couldn't do it all by myself. So it was just an extra hand. Hand was in the wrong place. Let's just look at it that way. Okay, so if you look, you can see that the very tip of the center and the crease right here, let me show you. The tip of the center right here and the crease right here, they're off. It looks like it's off by quite a bit, but I actually measured it. It is exactly 1 inch. So what needs to happen is this needs to come over 1 inch. Now what happens is, because of this, it makes this look like it's way off. It's really not that far off. If I pull that back in and push it over 1 inch, this comes into line a whole lot better, but it looks like it's way off. All right, again, I have a couple options. I can split this in the center and move this, leave this where it is, move this over here to where it's there, And then what I'll do, before I split it, I'll make another copy. Actually, because I have the mold, I'll just do it off the mold. I'll make another one of these center sections. Okay, I can cut this completely out, move this out, and then I'll cut a strip about, this wide, and blend it in here. So this will stay, this will move over, and that new piece will be laid on top of here. This front end will actually be an inch wider. I'm hesitant to do that because this car is designed to use all of the chrome and grille from an actual C2 Corvette. So if I do that, that stuff's going to be off a half an inch on each side. So I'd rather not do that. Another option is to put the space here. Okay, so what I could do is put a spacer in here. That's the reason why I left these separate instead of making them all in one piece. This was designed to be a one-piece section. I purposely made it in separate sections because I suspected I might have an issue here. So I could move this out, add a spacer here and there that would shift this over, and I don't think that'll cause any problems with the chrome. I know it won't mess up the grille. The bumper might cause a challenge, but I can always fudge the way the bumper mounts. Okay, so again, I have to worry about that when I get to that point. But anyway, the bottom line is it's handled. The reason why I can get away with that is because this whole hood section is mine. Okay, so I have a hood, I showed it previously, that fits on here, but it would be no big deal to make it wider or thinner or whatever I want to do. There's nothing saying that the hood that I have has to match the way it was. So again, if I split it in here and make it wider, I just make my hood a little bit bigger, or do the same thing with the hood, split it in the middle and then spread it out. Again, I'm going to use the hood scoop off of that, so I've got to make a mold and make a copy of that. So that's going to take care of the front. All right. A lot of people have asked about the roof. Okay, and from the front, there's no ridge, but when you get back here, there's a ridge here, and it does not flow well. There's also a ridge here, and it doesn't flow well. So I could go in and put a skin, thin fiberglass skin on top of this. The easiest way would be to put Bondo, but I hate to put that much Bondo. It's, a quarter of an inch, not quite a quarter of an inch, let's say an eighth of an inch across there, and fill this in. The challenge is that when this opens, this back part lifts up, this goes in, tucks in underneath, and this closes. I'm not sure if this is for clearance or if it can handle being, let's say, a quarter of an inch taller. I have to look at that. Again, that's very low on my priority list. I can live with this extra ridge. If people look at my car and go, hey, your car looks good except for that extra ridge, I can live with that. Again, my goal is to finish this thing. Then later on, I do plan on doing another version of this. So later on, I can make all these changes and adjustments. Okay, I think that's got us caught up. So again, I've got a lot of work cut out for me to do, so I'm going to get to it. Like, subscribe, hit that alert button, and I will see you next time. Bye.